So, have you ever stopped to think about how a system of thought could try to categorize, well, every single thing a person could possibly do? That's exactly what we're diving into today with Islamic jurisprudence. But, before we can even get to the actions themselves, we have to start with something way more fundamental. What does it even mean to know something in the first place?
Now, this might sound like a riddle, but it's not. The answer to this very question is actually the key that unlocks this entire way of thinking. So yeah, let's get into it.
First things first, we've got to draw a line in the sand between just knowing stuff and truly deeply understanding it. Because in this system, they are two totally different ballgames.
Okay, so on one side, you have this idea called ilm. You can think of this as general knowledge. It could be about anything, grammar, math, history, you name it. A person who has ilm is called an alim. But then you have fiqh, and this is a whole other level. This isn't just knowing facts. It's a specialized, super deep understanding of how you actually derive and apply legal rulings. The expert here, that's a faqih.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly sums it up. See, a jurist, a faqih, has to be an alim. They need that broad base of knowledge to even start. But just because you're an alim, just because you're knowledgeable, that doesn't automatically make you a jurist. Fiqh is a much more specific, much deeper discipline. It's a whole different skill set.
So, if that's the deal with knowledge, what about the opposite? What about ignorance? Well, this framework has this really surprisingly nuanced take on it. It actually splits ignorance into two distinct types, and believe me, the difference between them is a really, really big deal. First up, we've got jahl basit, which we can call simple ignorance. This one's pretty straightforward, right? It's when you know that you don't know something. If you asked me to fix a car engine, I'd say, sorry, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. That's simple ignorance. I'm aware of the gap in my knowledge, and hey, that awareness is always the first step to actually learning. But then there's jahol murakkab, compound ignorance, and this is where things get really tricky. This is when you don't even know that you don't know. It's that person who is confidently 100% wrong, but they believe they're right, and that's what makes it so much more dangerous. I mean, think about it. You can't fix a problem if you don't even realize you have one.
All right, so now that we've got our foundation straight on knowledge versus ignorance, we can get to the main event. Let's build the core framework, the 5 categories that this entire system uses to classify pretty much every single human action.
What's so wild about this is just how comprehensive it is. Every single thing you could do fits into one of these 5 buckets. At the very top, you've got wajib. That's obligatory. You get rewarded for doing it, and it's a sin if you don't. At the very bottom, you have haram, forbidden, sinful if you do it, but check this out. You actually get rewarded just for avoiding it. And then, filling in that huge space in the middle, you've got recommended actions, things that are totally neutral or permissible, and things that are discouraged.
But wait, it doesn't stop there. The system gets even more granular, especially when you look at that gray area between what's discouraged and what's just okay. It's a really fascinating and subtle distinction.
So an act gets labeled makruh or discouraged when there's a specific kind of soft prohibition against it. Think about the example here, walking into a mosque and just sitting right down without doing that short recommended prayer of greeting. But then there's khilaful awla, which literally means contradicting the better option. This is different. This isn't about a prohibition. It's about passing up a chance to do something more virtuous, like the traveler who has permission to shorten their prayers for convenience but chooses not to. It's not wrong, but it's like they left the better choice on the table.
Okay, so there's one last absolutely crucial layer to this whole system we need to unpack, and it's this sharp, clear distinction between what's morally right and what is legally valid.
Now get ready for this, because it might sound a little strange at first. The idea here is that an action can be legally, technically sound, and at the very same time, be sinful. The legal standing of an action is judged completely separately from its morality.
An action is called sahih or valid if it just checks all the necessary legal boxes. So let's make this real. Imagine person A and person B have agreed on a price for a car. They've got a deal. Then person C comes along, jumps in, and offers the seller more money. Now that act of interfering is considered sinful or haram. But, and this is the key, if the new sale to person C meets all the legal requirements of a contract, the sale itself is actually sahih. It's legally valid, even though the whole thing was kicked off by a sinful act.
So let's recap. We've journeyed through a whole system that carefully separates general knowledge from deep understanding, that distinguishes simple ignorance from the far more dangerous compound ignorance, and that draws a hard line between what's moral and what's legally valid. And when you put it all together, it leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. How does having a framework that categorizes every single action, from the biggest life decisions to the smallest daily habits, actually shape the way you see the entire world and your own place within it?